Thank you. I'm here today to tell you a story about women who earn less than $2 a day and work as micro-entrepreneurs. And also a story about how some of them find pathways out of poverty. This is Kamala. Kamala lives in a small town in India. She lives in a slum, in a one-room hut. She's a single mom and raises 2 kids in that one-room hut. She earns an income by working at a local garment factory. It's a very small income, so it basically allows her to pay for her food and a few minimal housing, living expenses. So to supplement her income, Kamala has to work a second job. She moonlights as a tailor. And she moonlights as a tailor for her neighbors and others in her community. So having small tailoring orders from other slum dwellers, many of whom earn less than her and are significantly poorer than her. Now, Kamala has tried to manage her poverty also by taking out microfinance loans. She's taken out a number of them in her life. She takes out one a year to pay for her kids' tuition. She sends her kids to a private school. No, it's not a fancy private school. It's a school at the outskirts of her slum. But she believes that education is far better than the government school education, which is a free education. And she really wants to give her kids this experience of studying and having the opportunities that she never had as a kid growing up. So Kamala takes out a microfinance loan every year to pay for the tuition. And of course, in addition, she takes out a number of other loans to pay for health emergencies, to pay for housing expenses, large purchases, etc. So in other words, microfinance helps Kamala and millions of women like her, women micro-entrepreneurs living on $2 a day or less. Microfinance helps them manage their poverty. It doesn't help them escape that poverty. So the real challenge is, how can we think of ways in which the women get inspired to find opportunities outside their slum and find ways of escaping that poverty? What the women are really looking for, and this woman, her name is Radhika. She lives in a rather miserable slum in Bangalore. If you've seen Slumdog Millionaire, well, the slum that she lives in is more or less comparable, so you get a picture. Radhika and Kamala and all the other women micro-entrepreneurs like her are really looking for 3 things. They're looking to gain new skills. They know they don't have good skills. They don't have the skills to succeed in the global marketplace. So they're looking for skills. The second thing they're looking for is they're looking to get market information. They don't know what sells. They know what sells in their slum. So Radhika actually sells vegetables to others in her slum. Again, so she has no idea what vegetables someone else living in an upscale neighborhood in Bangalore might want or might not want. The third thing Kamala and Radhika and others like them are looking for is connecting to wider markets. They know that those markets that they're connected to is not going to help them escape poverty. So the idea is, but they have no idea, how do they connect to a wider market? So Ubuntu at Work started a network of what we call Ahava Workspaces. Baobab, as many of you may know, is the tree that's largely found in Africa, a little bit in India as well. And a baobab tree is a very multi-use, multi-purpose tree. So these Baobab Workspaces are multi-use spaces. And we started a network of these spaces in the slum or near the slum so the women can access them. And they can accommodate up to about 250 women. Okay? And these workspaces are spaces, they're neat, clean spaces, unlike much of the rest of the slum. They're spaces where the women can come during the day. They can learn skills, they can learn business skills, they can learn financial skills. They can also learn to make new products that they've not been used to. But more importantly, they now have a clean space where they can actually make those products. Because if you live in a one-room hut with a husband and 3 children, it's very unlikely you have the space to actually make products that look neat. The Baobab space also helps the women by connecting them to Ubuntu at Work's global community of volunteers. Now, these volunteers around the world are professionals, very much like yourselves, and they share with Ubuntu at Work and with the women that we help and we work with, they share their energy, their expertise, and their time. And they help the women in various Baobab workspaces identify new business opportunities. They also help the women by retailing the products the women make around the world. So when Radhika or Kamala makes a product, we have a volunteer in DC or a volunteer in California who can help find us retailers, etc. Something that Radhika or Kamala could never have done or imagined they could do by themselves. The wonderful thing about the workspace and the Ubuntu community is, and this is something that emerged, so it's not something we initially thought we were going to succeed at doing, is we also bring together a number of designers from around the world. These are well-established designers who come to us and who want to produce socially responsible products. So they share their ideas, and the women translate these ideas into products in these workspaces. And then the designers or our volunteers or other retail outlets sell these products. The designers benefit because they get paid and they produce socially responsible products. The women, of course, benefit because they get a fair wage. And in addition, from the sale of the product, we put about 300% of the labor costs into a trust. And we tell the women that this is money that you can use to develop your skills, you can use it to develop your communities. We'd rather that you just didn't spend it on a new sari or color TV. But you can use it certainly to upgrade your skills because you need to think long term and so on and so forth. Now, you might imagine, and this is indeed correct, that these Baobab workspaces are desperately needed in rural communities, in rural villages, whether in India or anywhere in Africa or Latin America. That's where you need these Baobab workspaces. Women living in villages have no avenue of getting information from outside the village. They have no access to markets outside the village. They have no idea what business opportunities might exist or might not exist. They've just been doing their traditional work that they've always been doing. We recently started a Baobab workspace in a village. It's a very pretty village in South India called Korigali. And in this village, the women were very interested in starting an organic farming initiative. So they want to produce organic farm, they want to learn about organic farming, and then of course they want to try and they want us to help them sell this produce in local towns and cities where it would fetch a high price. The women also want to start an organic spice initiative, and they want to cultivate the spices, they want to grow the spices and herbs, and they want to package it, and they want to market it around the world. And of course, it's going to be coming soon to a store near you in Boston. The Baobab workspaces also are very collaboratively run. So Ubuntu at Work doesn't run and manage these workspaces. The women share in the management and the organization and the development of these workspaces, which give the women managerial skills, operational skills, etc. And as I mentioned, I don't think I mentioned that, as the women increase their income, they use part of their income to pay the workspace for the services that they use. So this workspace itself becomes self-sustaining after a couple of years. Now, what our global community, what the Ubuntu at Work global community really does is it cracks open the very small economic world of poor women anywhere in the world. It cracks it open because it connects them to a much wider world. I was talking to someone the other day and I was saying, the world has become so small. It's such a small world. I just met someone the other day at the airport who knows someone else who knows me and so on and so forth. And I'm sure you've all had these experiences. But then I realized our world seems small, but these women's worlds are really small. And that has to be cracked. So there's a good small and there's a bad small, and their economic world is not a good small. So what Ubuntu at Work at the end of the day really wants to accomplish is to be able to reach out to hundreds and thousands of women living on $2 a day, and help them not just manage poverty. There's been a lot of that going on, but really to help them escape poverty. And what's been amazing and wonderful about this exercise is just to see how amazingly empowered some of the women begin to feel. So just to go back to Kamala, who I introduced you to right at the beginning. Kamala has been working and collaborating with Ubuntu at Work for about a year now. And last week, I was talking to her. There was a journalist visiting from the US who wanted to meet them. And he met Kamala and so on. And he was talking to Kamala, and he was saying, well, what inspires you? What leads you to do, what leads you to come and be part of Ubuntu? Now, a year ago, she really wanted to just come to Ubuntu and earn a little bit more. And today, she's sort of much more confident to be able to say, what I really want to gain skills, to be able to help my children, and especially my daughter, who's had such a protected life and insular life. I wanted to explore more of the world. And the journalist also followed up with a question and said, well, which politician in India do you feel really represents you? Who's your champion of women's rights and so on? And he offered her sort of the two well-known Indian female politicians as role models and said, what about them? So he said, what about Indira Gandhi or Sonia Gandhi? Do they inspire you? Do you feel they champion your rights? And she looked at him and she said, no, not really. They all come from a very upper-class political background. The woman who really represents us is this politician in the north who comes from a lower-caste background. She said, and I sort of sat there listening to her, and I thought, my God, she's going to start a march, a feminist march through the streets of Ramnagar at this point. So it's fabulous. And so what Ubuntu at Work is really trying to do is crack open the worlds of the small, insular worlds of women micro-entrepreneurs to connect them to global markets and allow them to leverage global resources, much in the way that all of you are able to do so. Thank you.